I'm actually gonna rewind it, but then play it back once I start the job. Okay. So what are we gonna do first? Apenas le estoy agarrando la onda, apenas. Root length, how about this? 152, wait. Hush. 152. 648. A ver, no tanto. Uf. 365. Ándale. A ver. Si quiero. Large containers, but they're empty. 17 hours. Euro goodies. What is P for? Parking brake. No puedo ver la ruta. A ver, espera, era F1, ¿no? Pero espera, ¿por qué? Enabled navigation. Only in exterior. No quiero eso. Ay, perdón. Background opacity indicators. I guess. A ver. Controls quiero que sea. ¿Cuál era? Shifter, no. Keys and buttons. Throttle modifier. No sé qué es modifier. Engine. wipers, left turn light modes, high beam headlights, wipers, where wipers, okay, wipers back. Cruise control. Cruise control cassette. And does it reverse? S. No. Cruise control entonces que sea cruise. Where are you? Cruise. The fuck? Aquí está. Resume. Lane assistant mode. Press brake. Gearbox. Shifted drive. Adaptive. No. Trailer. Engine brake. Ese retarder, no sé qué es eso. Navigation, sim mode, trip info, reset quick info. Ay, güey, no. Pues creo que ya, o sea, quisiera tener más. Más opciones, más botones, pero más. Interior, look forward. Walk mode. World map. M. Screenshot. F10. Garage manager. Okay. Okay, and then steering auto center. Oh, aquí está, ¿no? World and job map only. Job map only? ¿Cómo crees? Can I place a marker? World map. Quick job. Pero, ¿por qué? Eso es para abajo. Denmark. Oh, there you go. Okay. Entonces ya se ve, o solo así. ¿Esto es para qué era? No me acuerdo ya. Map. Menú. Yo creo que voy a dejar ese como menú. A ver. Quick info. Show hide. Navigation. Destination mode. A ver. Reset camera. ¿Por qué no se ve, por ejemplo, aquí? Vamos al sur. Al sur, pues. Todo al sur, al sur, al sur. A3 y 25. A3 y 25. What I don't understand is why is it like Station, Chopty Oh. Entrar, move. Y choqué, no, hombre. How do you mean, bruh? Right? Hijo de la... Pues todo derecho, ¿no?
I'm Susan Sarandon. Mythos with Joseph Campbell is a series about myths and mythology. Simply put, a mythology is a set of stories, of ideas that tries to make sense of the world and our place in it. But these are big ideas, ideas that make you think. This series is probably not for everyone, but neither is it exclusive. No special knowledge or education is required. You need only a deep interest in what it means to be alive, to experience these ideas as Campbell brings them to life. Joe Campbell taught mythology and comparative religion for 50 years. In one sense, he was a conventional scholar, spending 38 years at one college, Sarah Lawrence in New York. His approach to mythology, however, was far from conventional. Instead of concentrating on the differences that separated cultures throughout the ages and across the globe, Campbell sought the similarities, the universal themes of the human experience, those ideas we share in common with all humankind. Before he died in 1987, Joe Campbell made a final tour across the United States, presenting a series of lectures and seminars. Taken together, they represent Campbell's vision of the one great story of our human adventure, the story told here in this series of programs. Before beginning the story, Campbell offers a short explanation of how a functioning mythology serves both the individual and the society.
I see mythology, when it's in a socially functioning way, as serving four functions. The first function is what I would call the mystical function. Mystical. It opens up a realization of the mystical dimension, that behind the surface phenomenology of the world, there is a transcendent mystery source. And that is the source also within yourself. The second function has to do with the image of the world, what I would call the cosmological function. This changes radically from time to time. In the very early hunting and planting and gathering societies, relatively small horizon, and the science was that of what was visible. It was in terms of the visible world. The sun rose, went down. Moon rose, went down. With Copernicus, this all changed. The sun isn't rising. It's we that are twisting. The cosmology is totally changed. Cosmology and science changes. A mythology to be up to date and really to work in the minds of people who are living in the modern scientific world must itself incorporate the modern scientific world. The third function of a mythology is sociological, to validate and maintain a certain specific social order here and now of this specific society. The fourth problem is the pedagogical problem, guiding the individual harmoniously through the inevitable crises of the stages of life in his world today, in terms of its goods, its values, its dangers.
If every story has a beginning, where does the story of humankind begin? Where does mythology come from? For Campbell, the beginning to this story does not exist somewhere out there in the distant past. Rather, it starts right here, right now, within us, with what it means to be a human being. It's easy to see what separates us from each other, what makes us different. We all look and sound differently, and most societies have different values and customs. These are the physical and cultural distinctions that set us apart. What, then, are the characteristics we share in common? How are we all the same? To answer this question, Campbell uses the language of psychology to penetrate to the core of our human spirit.
In the last years of the last century, and first of this, there was a very important German anthropologist named Bastian, Adolf Bastian, who was a world traveler and early recognized that in the mythologies and religions of the world, there were certain themes, certain motifs that recurred everywhere. And he called these elementary ideas, Elementargedanken. He recognized also, of course, that in the various provinces and in various centuries, these elementary ideas appeared in different costumes, in different forms, with different applications, and associated with totally different social situations. And he called these local variations Völkergedanken, or ethnic or folk ideas. Now, this is a very important distinction. In some of the writings following Bastian, these two ideas have become confused, and he has been said to have represented simply the idea of the elementary idea. On the other hand, we have to take into account the distinction between what is universal in mythology and religion and then what is provincial and separate. This divides our whole subject into two departments. One, that of the differences, is the concern principally of historians and ethnologists, and they make a very important point of the distinctions. On the other hand, there's the problem of the universals. Why do they occur everywhere? This is a psychological problem. And this is the one that I propose to deal with in today's seminar. Of the psychologists who've dealt with these problems, and there have been many, for me, Carl Jung says the most. Now, I don't present him as a final, definitive theorist. His work is suggestive. This is an enormous subject and full of mystery still. So I want to begin today by briefly reviewing Jung's approach to the problem of the elementary ideas, which he calls archetypes of the unconscious. Now that immediately gives us a psychological ground on which to build, that these are in some way features in the unconscious of the human animal, and experiences that come in through the nervous system are assimilated and interpreted in terms of these psychological ground archetypes. So to begin with, we start with this simple circle here. This is a picture of the soul, the psyche. Plato says the soul is a circle, so here we have it. Now every circle has a center, and that is indicated by the dot in the center there. The horizontal line represents the threshold of consciousness. Above that is our mental waking consciousness, and below that is what might be called the wisdom consciousness of the body itself. The term that Jung uses for the totality is the self. Now this word, the self, in his terminology, is not to be confused with the Hindu Atman, which has been translated as the self. If Atman were what I was talking about, there would be no circle there at all. There'd be just a white flash on the screen. The Atman is undifferentiated consciousness. But what Jung is talking about is consciousness enclosed in a specific human body, namely yours. And it is conditioned in all of its experience and action by the conditioning body in which it resides. Male, female, young, old, healthy, or decrepit one way or another. That is the machine that you've got to live with, and it's with that you've got to deal. There's no use wishing you were, 6'8" tall, blonde, and blue-eyed. The bounds of your experience are indicated by the circle. The center of consciousness is termed the ego. Simply means I. In German, it's the Ich. I have represented this as rectangular to indicate that its mode of judgment is not in accord with that of the body, with that of nature. This room that we're in is rectangular. It's built by consciousness. When you walk out of this room, you come into the country out there, this beautiful country. It has nothing to do with rectangles. And all conscious thinking is likewise out of accord with the order of the body. Myths come from down here, where the energies come from, as dreams do. And it's the business of ego not to try to dictate to this circle, to say how square it should be, but to try to bring its impulse system into relationship to the conditions of the environment which ego has constructed. Culture is a cooperation, is the result of a cooperation between the self, you might say, and the ego. And mythology is the language of the self speaking to the ego system. And the ego system has to learn how to read it. And for the most part, we in our world have forgotten. Now, down below there, we have the shadow, as Jung calls it. It's like the blind spot for ego. That about yourself, of which your ego is completely unconscious, of which it has no knowledge whatsoever. I've rendered it in a series of separate strokes. This shadow, in Jung's terminology, corresponds almost precisely to the Freudian unconscious. The Freudian unconscious is constituted of repressed experiences, repressed shocks that the infant, first the infant and then later the growing child has experienced. Jung's first interest in Freud was in Freud's theory of the mechanism of repression. What is it in the psyche that so puts these things out of sight that consciousness is completely unaware of them? And it is these shocks that have set up the slant, the posture, the structuring attitude of the individual to life. It's these that constitute the personal unconscious. The shocks that will have upset and transformed the life experience of one person will not be precisely the same as those that will have done so for another. And so the shadow is the order of what Jung calls the personal unconscious. On the other hand, the self is a function of the biology of the body. We have two things here. We have a basic human biology, and we have then a system of individual experiences, both in the unconscious realm as far as our ego knowledge is concerned. It's out of those centers, then, that dreams come. And dreams, of course, will be primarily personally oriented. They will have come from the shadow system mostly, but the shadow system rests on the deeper ground. When we come to myths, the imagery is out of the general system. And Jung speaks of two orders of dream. There'll be one order of symbols that you can interpret by personal associations, the free association technique that Freud uses. But there will be then other images in your dreams at certain critical moments in your life that you cannot interpret through personal associations. They will be strictly mythological in their character. On the other hand, you can have dreams that have to do with personal experiences that are quite peculiar to yourself. And these Jung calls the small or little dreams, and the others the big dreams. Often big dreams occur in technicolor. The next problem is this of the persona personae. Persona is the Latin word for the mask worn by an actor. Each society has its wardrobe of personae for you. If we were here in Taos, let's say 250 years ago or something like that, we would be an American Indian community, and there'd be a totally different set of personae, tasks to do. These are the Völkergedanken. These are the folk ideas. This is the system of transformations that we have to live with. And it's through the personae of the society that one comes into relationship to other human beings and also into the world of nature, which means into the world of one's own character. These will differ from one society to another. Now, in a traditional society, and supreme example is traditional India, the individual is meant to identify with the persona. He is to live in terms of what is called the dharma, the duty system that is put upon him. And he is a Brahmin. He is a warrior. He is a merchant. He isn't playing the role. He is it. In our modern Western society, which has much more respect for the individual values and individuality, the person who identifies himself with his role, we call a stuffed shirt. You have to put the role off and put it on again. It's not part of you. The executive comes home in the evening and is met by the executive's wife. The executive plays ball with the executive's son for a little while. And then later in the night, the wife will have the privilege of going to bed with an executive. And this is the thorough stuffed shirt. Not only are you, in our society, supposed simply to put the role on and put it off, but also you're supposed to develop your critical faculties. This is the function of ego, of which the Orient and traditional societies know nothing. The whole character of Oriental thinking is elimination of ego, which in Sanskrit is called ahang, ahankara, making the noise I. By eliminating ego, annihilating the critical faculty, you identify with the role that the society has put upon you. In other words, what we think of as the creative faculty is completely gone. Now, this is one of the problems when a Western person goes to an Oriental guru to become illuminated. The Oriental person has a relatively fragile ego. But we have been asked ever since childhood, you know, Johnny, would you like chocolate or vanilla ice cream? I want strawberry. So we go out and get strawberry ice cream for the kid. We're even allowed to choose our wives and husbands. This doesn't happen in the East. Life happens to people in the East. They don't choose it. And so this faculty, this judging, this evaluating, this accepting responsibility faculty is not developed. So a Western person with a developed evaluating ego goes to an Oriental guru. And the guru has a little hammer to break egos. That's what's known as method. And the person comes then with this rock of an ego. The guru is used to things about as fragile as those things you hang on Christmas trees. And you come with your ego and you say, Guru, I want to get rid of my ego. So he takes the hammer, nothing happens. I know people who've had hammers hitting them for 40 years and nothing has happened. And they think it's something wrong with them. And this is psychologically bad news. This is important. You know the word sati? In Sanskrit, it's spelled S-A-T-I, long I. That word sati comes from the verb to be. The woman who has thrown herself on her husband's funeral pyre and been burnt up with him has performed her duty as a wife. This is a long, long idea. The two are one. He has died. She has gone down into the death world as Inanna in the Sumerian story goes down to rescue Dumuzi or somebody like that. It's an old story. It's the woman's hero deed, giving up her life to join that with her husband and both achieve immortality through that. We say commit sati. In India, they say the woman becomes sati. She becomes something. She is something. And the woman who doesn't do it is asati, is nothing. One's character is a function of one's identification with one's socially given duty, a totally different system from ours. Now, another thing to remember with the persona personae system is this includes the morality as well. The morality of the culture is involved in this. So that morality is something you put on and put off. When in Rome, do as the Romans. And a lot of people have trouble with that.
When people hear the word psychology, they often think of therapy. Someone has emotional problems and needs help to get through a crisis. To Campbell, psychology's greatest value lies in the insights it offers to all of us about how we live our lives. Campbell believed that the more we know about our common psychological roots, the more we feel connected, not only to the rest of humanity, but to the mystery source of all life. He has spoken so far about the self, our conscious and unconscious being, and about the persona system, the relationship of the individual to society. But what of the most mysterious relationship of all, that between man and woman?
Now we come to the next business, anima animus. The anima is the readiness in the masculine psyche to respond to a female presence. Put it that way. It's the ideal of woman that is in the psyche. This has, in each case, two aspects. One is the archetypal or collective anima image. All males are born with that readiness. But the other is the personal aspect. Now let us ask, how is the personal aspect rendered? The first object for a subject is mother. The child is born from the mother's body and is immediately put on the mother's body, and mother is the world. The child has had no other experience. The entire eros, the entire libido, the entire experience of object is of the mother. And the child is completely ready for that. The mother as environment and the child as the creature are perfectly matched. Child knows exactly what to do. Goes to the mother's breast and is now being nourished. Didn't have to be told this, what to do. The body is made to live in its environment. So the first object for any subject is a female object, the mother. And how does that mother behave? Is she glad to have the child, or does she resent it? All this comes through. Is she gentle? Is she skillful? And so forth and so on. This is the first determination of the anima structure. This is the personal experience, and it will differ from mother to mother. Then all images of woman later in experience rest on that. They build up this image and transform it, differentiate it, and so forth. So the male relationship to the female is based on a very singular ground, which in each individual experience will have its own character, personal, collective aspects. The experience of the male, as something else, comes later. I'm told somewhere in the second year. Up to that time, daddy has been mother's hairy helper. But now, and really not quite satisfactory either. Then what comes along around this other age crisis is the realization there is an essential difference here, and I'm on this side or that. Now we have the Freudian family romance of the Oedipus and the Electra complexes. The male boy and the male father with rivalry for the mother, and in the girl's case, the young girl and the mother in rival for the father. This is a quite secondary situation, and of course this will differ from society to society. In our society, where we have the closed family, you have a quite different situation from what you would have, for example, in a Polynesian village, where everybody is everybody's father and mother. The children are the children of the community, and people behave with children as though they were their own children. The thing is a totally different thing. So we have two totally different structures here. The male in relation to the female in relation to the male. Furthermore, by the time daddy is recognized as something different from mother's helper merely, there are other males in the environment. There are uncles, brothers, doctors, and gentlemen, perhaps, whom father knows nothing about. So, as Jung says, the woman has a kind of jury for her animus or animi, whereas the male has the singular brother. And now comes my masterpiece. This diagram shows that knowledge of the unconscious is gained by the ego by way of projections. The unconscious, and this is something that is really serious, unconscious is unconscious. You don't know what's down there until you experience it by way of a projection. So, a woman walks in the room and I'm struck. What's happened? She has received my anima projection. There's a dimple here or something like that that mother had, and there it is. I don't recognize this mother. I think it's that out there. And then I marry the creature. Now, I don't know what I'm doing, really. What I'm really joining up with is a projection of my own psyche. And it doesn't take long in marriage for a fact to show through. And here comes the typical problem. Now, what are you going to do? You thought you were marrying this, and you got that. And there are two possibilities. One, you could say, darling, I am disillusioned. I'm taking my anima back for reprojection. And this can go on. The only alternative is to transform passion into compassion and say, well, dear, all right, I accept the fact. And then there comes what we call love. Love is really the relationship to the person. It's a person-to-person relationship that develops. Otherwise, there's tension, but there has to be a reconciliation with the fact world. And this we call maturation. Now, I've got up there not only people, but animal and trees. Women frequently identify themselves in their dreams and visions with vegetal forms and so forth. And we can fall in love with the tree, with the plant. Projecting into the plant sentiments which belong properly to human beings or animals. I know people who have invested more love in their cats than in their families. These things are inevitables. So what I want to go through today are these projections. I'm going to deal first with the shadow projections. The shadow is the rejected, frightening aspect of your experience of life, which then gets projected onto people. The shadow in your life will always be a person of your own sex. It's the you that you are refusing to admit. It has terrifying, threatening qualities, But you must remember that it also encloses values, positive gold values, that you have not allowed to come into your life. The shadow, you don't know anymore why it is you don't like that person. I've had the experience, a rather common one in my life. I do not like you, Dr. Fell. The reason why I do not know. I cannot tell. But this I know and know right well. I do not like you, Dr. Fell. Well, this is a person that's doing things that I was taught not to do. Let's say something like that. Then the anima projection. But then there's another. The projection of the self. The idea of your totality, your fulfillment. This is a very important matter with respect to education, pedagogy. There's a theory going around now that the character of the teacher doesn't matter so long as the teacher has the information that's necessary. This is all wrong. It's the character of the teacher that evokes ideological participation and spontaneous identification and learning. Everyone can remember 4 or 5 teachers out of many dozen who actually did something to one. These were people that evoked the self-image, and with it, the learning and what they had to teach. And now we come to the next problem. What is it that enforces the persona system, that enforces the folk idea system? The first level are the neighbors. What will the neighbors think? Little Sati won't throw herself on her husband's funeral pyre. What will the neighbors think? So we throw her on. This is the most important, really. Then we have the whole institutionalization of morality and social custom and so forth that enforces this system. Then we have the idea of nature, the idea of nature. People speak of, you know, natural moral laws and all that sort of thing, as though there were any such thing. And finally, with this, I represent the idea of transcendence. This is the sun door through which the soul goes, burning out all temporality into eternal life. The ideas that are represented
There's this lake that my brother and I used to fish. we'd use live bait, usually crickets or worms, and we'd catch a ton of bluegill. It was a fun time, and some of those early memories are the reason
Sleeping violations, how'd they know? You know? Police.
These are 8 times officers caught something on their body cams that nobody can explain, and the more you look at the footage, the less any of it starts to make sense.
Statistics.
Case 1. The voicemails. On the morning of March 11th, 2026, a man in Florida walks up to a police officer in a parking lot with his phone already in his hand.
Hi.
I'm just wanting to document everything that's going on. So I'm pulling up. This is from last night. Did you saw the email I sent you?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to go through these again, but I don't know if you listened to them. They're f***ing scary.
What is going? Clearly something's going on with her. Like that's not normal behavior.
I don't know how you make your voice sound like that.
Right.
He isn't there to report a crime against himself. He just wants everything documented, on the record, because of what he woke up to the night before.
Okay, so you had them last night when these voicemails were coming in?
And I saw them this morning. And that is scary. Like, that gave me chills the first few times.
Right.
I don't know how scared I have to actually be.
That doesn't sound like she's in her right state of mind at all.
In the space of a single hour, his ex-wife had called him 17 times and left 9 voicemails. The 2 of them were married for years, and the kids they share are the only reason he still has any contact with her at all. He's moved on. He has a new partner and a new life. But when he starts playing the voicemails back for the officer, the sound coming out of the phone doesn't land like a message at all.
Do me a favor and play them. Play the other one.
Okay, we're up to the second one here. That was 145. This is 146. $47.
You married him back, and you want everybody to tell for your love. You are alive. You know that. You're alive. You're alive. You're alive.
47 and 49.
Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy History Channel. Tonight, we travel back beyond cities and kingdoms beyond pyramids and parchment, to a time when our story was just beginning. Long before written words or measured calendars, the first humans were learning how to survive, to adapt, and to understand the vast world around them. They stood beneath enormous Ice Age skies. They crossed lands that no longer exist. They met other kinds of humans who are now gone. And somehow, through challenge and change, they endured. This is not just distant history. It is the opening chapter of you. In their footsteps are the origins of language, of family, of cooperation, of curiosity. In their choices are the roots of art, belief, and exploration. The deeper we look, the more familiar they become. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. And allow your thoughts to drift as we wander back to the very beginning of our human story. Let's begin. The first Homo sapiens appeared in Africa about 300,000 years ago. We discovered this through a growing trail of fossils and stone tools that places our earliest known bones in North Africa, including remains from Gebel Erhoud, Morocco. These people did not look exactly like us, yet they carried key features already in place, including a face that was becoming flatter and more modern. Other traits arrived later, like a rounder brain case, which hints that our species assembled in stages. Africa at the time was a patchwork of shifting grasslands, lakes, and deserts. Populations could spread, separate, and meet again. That long, braided history helps explain why our species is both ancient and still changing. Every human alive today carries DNA from those ancient African founders. When you zoom in far enough, family trees stop being tidy and start becoming a tangled canopy. Over many generations, lineages merge because most ancestral lines eventually end, while a few continue through chance, survival, and children who also have children. Geneticists can trace certain threads, like mitochondrial DNA that passes through mothers and the Y chromosome that passes through fathers, and they point again toward deep roots in Africa. The longer you look back, the fewer ancestors remain in the picture, until everyone's history overlaps. That does not mean the world came from one couple. It means humanity is connected through many people who
the emotional numbness that helps. Part 10, The Future's Absence. Every person you've ever known or loved will someday be completely gone from this world, their unique consciousness forever extinguished regardless of what beliefs about afterlife might comfort the living. Their voices, their laughter, their particular way of seeing the world, and all the accumulated wisdom of their lived experience will vanish permanently, preserved only temporarily and incompletely in fading memories and recordings. Places that hold your most precious memories and seem permanent features of your mental landscape will be altered beyond recognition or cease to exist entirely within a relatively short span of time. The childhood home that formed your earliest sense of place, the tree you climbed when seeking solitude, the corner store where you bought candy with carefully saved coins, all temporary arrangements in constant flux. Languages spoken fluently by millions today will eventually join Latin and ancient Greek as academic curiosities, rather than living tongues used for love, argument, poetry, and daily communication. The books and films created now will become gradually incomprehensible to future generations as language evolves away from current usage, with meanings and references requiring scholarly explanation rather than immediate understanding. Humanity itself represents a temporary phenomenon in the story of Earth, rather than its culmination or purpose. One species among millions that will eventually disappear regardless of our technological achievements or sense of exceptionalism. Everything humans have created, preserved and valued throughout our entire history will eventually be forgotten completely, lost to time's relentless advance as though it never existed at all. Part 11. The masks we wear. Most people maintain entirely different personas for different audiences, unconsciously changing their beliefs, speech patterns, body language, and even fundamental values depending on social context. The version of yourself displayed at work differs markedly from the one shown to family, to friends, to romantic partners, or when completely alone with your unfiltered thoughts. We carefully curate which aspects of ourselves to display based on meticulous assessment of what will be rewarded or punished in each specific relationship and environment, becoming skilled performers of situational identity. Over time, these masks can become so habitual and automatic that we lose conscious awareness of the shape-shifting, genuinely experiencing each version as authentic in the moment, despite their contradictions. Some people realize in midlife or during existential crisis that they've been performing roles created to please others for so long that they've lost connection with their authentic desires, values, and voice beneath the accumulated layers of adaptation. This realization creates the disturbing question, who am I really? A query that becomes increasingly difficult to answer with each passing year of social conditioning and strategic self-presentation. Many people carry the deep and often unacknowledged fear that if they showed their complete, unfiltered self, including their darkest thoughts, unconventional desires, or genuine opinions, they would be rejected by everyone whose acceptance and love they value. This fear keeps the masks firmly in place, creating a lifetime of partial connections and conditional acceptance that never touches the full humanity beneath the performance, leaving the deepest parts of self perpetually unexpressed and unwitnessed. Part 12. Unacknowledged grief. We experience countless small deaths and losses throughout life that we never properly mourn or even consciously recognize, creating a background sadness that colors existence without clear source. The friendship that slowly faded without formal ending, the career path abandoned for practical reasons, the home left behind during relocation, each represents a significant loss carrying genuine grief that social convention provides no ritual to honor. Each time we change significantly as persons, a version of ourselves dies and can never be recovered, creating a subtle mourning for past selves who no longer exist except in memory and photographs that capture strangers who were once us. The dreams we silently relinquish as impractical or impossible as life narrows possibilities, becoming a dancer, living in Paris, having children after fertility ends, accumulate as unacknowledged losses carried privately. Parents experience profound grief as their children grow independent, a necessary loss woven into successful parenting but rarely discussed openly since it conflicts with cultural celebration of children's healthy development. The body's slow decline brings continuous small bereavements for capabilities once taken for granted. Running without pain, reading without glasses, remembering without effort, now permanently lost, despite their previous centrality to our self-concept. Many carry nostalgia as a form of disguised grief for periods of life, places once called home, or communities that can never be experienced again, as they exist now only in memory rather than physical reality. These unnamed and unacknowledged losses accumulate throughout a lifetime, creating an emotional backdrop of subtle sorrow for what once was and can never be again, a private museum of absence we carry within. Part 13, the weight of legacy. Most people harbour hopes of leaving some lasting impact on the world, yet demographic reality ensures that very few individuals will be remembered beyond 2 generations after their death. Even those who achieve remarkable fame, influence or accomplishment during their lifetime often fade into obscurity with surprising speed once no living person remembers them directly. Consider your own great-grandparents. How much do you actually know about them as full human beings, beyond perhaps a name, photograph, or handful of facts or stories that capture almost nothing of their actual lived experience? The most deeply personal and meaningful aspects of who you are, your private thoughts, what made you laugh, the quality of your love, your particular way of seeing the world, will not survive in family memory beyond those who knew you directly. Projects and institutions you might devote decades to building can be dismantled, repurposed, or fundamentally altered shortly after your death, sometimes erasing any evidence of your contribution within years of your passing. Buildings bearing founders' names are eventually renamed, businesses you built from nothing are sold or shuttered, scientific discoveries are superseded, and artistic innovations become mere historical footnotes as culture moves relentlessly forward. Even digital records of our existence, the modern attempt at immortality through social media archives, photographs, and recorded thoughts, will eventually be deleted, corrupted, or become technologically inaccessible as storage systems evolve beyond current formats. Our desperate attempts to create lasting meaning through accomplishment and documentation often blind us to the temporary nature of all human endeavours, preventing us from investing fully in the experiences and connections that create meaning within our actual lifespans. Part 14, the price of awareness. Becoming more conscious and self-aware often leads initially to greater suffering rather than greater happiness, as increased perception reveals problems previously hidden by comforting ignorance. Those who think deeply about existence and develop critical consciousness must confront uncomfortable truths about themselves, their relationships, and social systems that